Perhaps the most interesting and the most extraordinary story in the whole history and legacy of the 60s to the 90s is what has become of American women, particularly baby boom women, over the course of the last 30 years. We speak in terms of the legacy of the 60s being a dilemma for American women, a moment of choice for the 1990s. If we look at the history for a minute, we can see the seeds of this dilemma. The women's liberation movement, the pursuit of feminist objectives, sprang from an ideal, a value shift that had to do with pursuit of personal choice, of self-fulfillment. It came from the rising emphasis on individualism in the 60s. Women's liberation was not about money. It was not about really and truly women being able to go out and earn a living. It was not about economic need. In fact, the movement was started by the more affluent, better educated women in our society who really didn't need to go out and earn money. The point was they wanted the option of a choice in the roles that they could play in society. The attractive option was outside the home because they were looking at their mothers who were inside the home. They wanted the opportunity to work and find self-expression through work. It wasn't about money. The legacy is that in 1990, looking to the 90s, it's about money for women. And what women are now faced with is this question of to work or not to work, and whether or not issues around sacrifice of income should be made. So, and of course it isn't every woman, and it isn't every baby boom woman. There are different expressions of this throughout women in America. But what has happened is the value that we're looking at is this issue of blurred sex roles versus distinct sex roles in a very basic way. What was supposed to happen in 60s thinking was blurred sex roles. Women would have the choice to go to work or not, and men would also have blurred sex roles in that they would pick up on some of the responsibilities with regard to home and family and child rearing. The reality, and Gloria Steinem has said it, the reality is that what women's liberation means by 1990 is that women wind up doing more because men haven't moved into blurred sex roles. And this isn't just a woman sitting here complaining. Survey after survey among men has men acknowledging that they haven't picked up the slack on home and child rearing. So we have women, baby boom women, going into the 1990s with a new economic prospect outlook that says they have to be working to earn some money, but that also says family is now more important to me. I want to have children, or I have children. I want to spend more time with them. There are things that have to get done in the household that don't get done. He's not going to do it. We now have many single women who are parents, so there isn't even the question of a man picking up the slack. And women are under a significant amount of stress. Women's liberation has obviously worked in the sense that more women really have good job opportunities, that women's incomes in many, many spheres are better. It's worked in a lot of ways, but it hasn't been perfect. And the legacy is stress. And women in the 90s are going to be about resolving that stress by making some choices about what roles they're going to play. One of the great ironies, probably, in terms of the legacies of the 60s for the 90s, is that our older Americans, the parents of the baby boomers who created the values of the 60s, are the ones that are now reaping the most benefit from the values revolution. Because look at who the 50-plus population is in this society. Remember, these are the parents of the boomers. They are the ones whose values in the 50s said, save your money, work hard, sacrifice. They're the ones who have benefited from corporate pensions, from the Social Security system. Here they are approaching retirement, some of them into retirement, with money available to lead the good life that the boomers told them you were supposed to lead. So in the 1990s, while the baby boomers themselves may be struggling with economic concerns and how to raise a family and work and all that stuff, the 50 and over population turns out to be the population with the highest disposable income. And having learned from their kids about the good life, they're the ones that are pursuing it. There's this marvelous bumper sticker that says, "I'm driving my kid's inheritance." And in a way, it sums up one of the legacies of the 1960s, which is it is really the parents of the boomers that right now are enjoying the benefits of a values revolution that said it's okay to have a good time, because now they're having the good time. On the other end of the spectrum, young Americans, kids that are 18 to 22 in college, really look at the 60s and at the boomer generation, have absolutely no idea what's going on and a lot of resentment, because they didn't grow up with rising tides of affluence. They never experienced the psychology of affluence that the boomers did. They have grown up with increasing feelings about economic constraints. And they, in many ways, look at the 60s generation of boomers and think about squandering things and blame them for everything they see from economic inequities to environmental pollution. So they don't get it. The mature Americans have benefited from it.